Forest Farms, everybody. I'm Ivan, and today we're going to do a video on the bolt disassembly of the Canadian Ross Mark II or 1905 Ross rifle. This has been a little bit of a journey for me. There's not a lot of information online about disassembling these 1905 Ross bolts. I looked all over the internet, didn't find a lot of information, videos, or anything like that. So I was able to get onto Ian McCollum's website, Forgotten Weapons, and find a PDF of the original manual, I believe it was from 1905, of this rifle. And figure out how to pull it apart, because I'm having some issues with my firing pin. As you can tell, I've been into it, and I decided I'd try to do everyone a service and see if I can get a video out on YouTube about how to do this disassembly on this specific rifle. So what makes this one a little bit different than a lot of the later variants of the Ross rifle is this has a threaded firing pin, and that is different than the pin-ons. You know, you'll see some 1905s with the pin-on firing pins, and the 1910 or Mark III Rosses with the pin-on firing pins, and they're a little more straightforward. So let's just kind of get into this thing. Like a lot of you guys know, the Ross rifle is a straight pull. Kind of like the Swiss series, you know, the K11s, K31s, or the Austrian Mannlicher rifles, the M95s and such. So you pull it straight back, and that's how you work the action. I also apologize, I don't have a great tabletop review kind of setup camera right now, so whenever there's something that jars, it's probably going to shake the camera some, so just bear with me. So first things first, we got to pull this bolt out. So you retract it all the way to the rear. There's a button right here on the left side. Give it a push, and that bolt's going to pull right out. Now this bolt is under some spring tension, so let's just let it fall home. Let's just give it a little twist. Boom, there it goes. So right now, the spring is depressed. Let's set him aside and let's get the rifle out of the way. Let's see if we can pull it out in front of the camera here. Okay. Setting the rifle aside. Now let's look at this bolt. So it's not that complicated once you really start to look at it. You have the bolt head, you have an extractor. Here's the cocking piece that attaches to the firing pin, and the safety. We're not going to mess with the safety today. We're just going to mess with basically the internals of this. So first things first, you have to get that extractor off. So like I said, this thing kind of wants to slam shut. I'm behind the camera here, so let me hold that bolt head in place, and you can see there's a claw on the extractor that holds onto the bolt there. I'm just gonna get an old screwdriver in here and just give it a little bit of a lift and pull it up on the edge of that. I should be able to pull it out the rest of the way. Here goes, here's the extractor off. We're gonna need that later. Now we're gonna allow this to ride back down. And the next step is we're gonna have to pull off the cocking piece and unthread it. This takes about 3 arms to do. So, and I'm behind the camera here, so just bear with me. I'm gonna have to get a hold of this thing and twist it off to the side. Okay, there we go. Now, as I get unthreading this thing, you'll see that there is 2 flats in the side of the threads. We're gonna have to get a hold of them to get this completely all the way off. So to get it started, let's see if I can get a screwdriver in there. On the edge of that firing pin, I'm putting a little bit of pressure on it. 1 second, let me just pull it off a little bit. Get that pressure back on, and let's start to unthread this firing pin. Okay, so I could probably get it off all the way just right there, but I want to show you what it talks about in the manual. So as you see, there's a segment in there where there's 2 cutouts. In the manual it says to take your extractor, and you see there's this cutout in the extractor. You're supposed to use it as a wrench is what it says. So I'm going to pull this thing out, try to twist this firing pin around, and then lock extractor on it like a little wrench. So let's see if that's even possible like this. Okay, I'm gonna pull this out, get the extractor, try to keep it in camera. See if I can get the extractor locked in there. Okay, come on, gravity. Yeah, I can loop it in like that. Okay, I'm not quite there. Okay, I might be there now. Let's see what happens. Okay, so you can see it's holding back some of the tension. And I should be able to unthread this the rest of the way. Now there's a lot of threads on this, guys, which is part of the issue. I can definitely see why they went onto a pin-on type of caulking piece on these firing pins. Okay, we're still going. Okay, there it goes. There's your caulking piece. We'll set that aside. Now you got to take off tension and let that firing pin go home as easily as you can. And then now the bolt head has no more tension, spring tension, with the bolt body. Now you just kind of give this a twist, kind of let it do its thing, and it'll rotate out. Now you can see how the straight pull action works on this Ross. You got these helical cuts that coincide with cuts on the inside of the bolt body, and as you pull or push, it puts a rotation on that bolt and allows you to either lock it in place or unlock for extraction. It's actually a pretty cool design. So that's how that works. Now we get into another trouble spot. You see there's this threaded on keeper almost on the inside this channel for the firing pin, and then there's like a lock washer type of gizmo underneath that, and then you have a lot of spring tension in here. In the manual it tells you to get a crescent wrench on there and start to spin it, but there is almost no way that you could get a crescent wrench connected to that. So I'm going to take a old set of needle nose pliers, and I'm going to get it started. Now you'll hear it click as it goes into its lock locations. You hear that? See if I can get it again, so I can get a bite on it with a crescent wrench. Kind of hard to do behind the camera, guys. Okay, so that should give me enough to bite on it. Now there's a lot of spring tension underneath this at the moment. Let's see if I can get the flats of that kind of lined up. There's a lot of spring tension, so hopefully this thing doesn't just explode into my face. Now we'll start to unthread, trying to keep some pressure on it. You'll hear it click as it goes into its locations. There's not a ton of threads on this piece, so it'll surprise you. You should be almost there. I'm taking it easy. Don't want to go chasing these parts all over the room. Okay. Almost there. So you can see it's kind of bound up on that washer in there, and there's some spring tension for sure. So let me pull that off and see if I can release it. Okay. Oh boy. Okay, let's get this loosened up some. Okay, I got it. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. Okay, so you have the firing pin spring. Here's what I was talking about. threaded piece, and then right here with the coinciding locking piece, and that goes in there and allows you to lock stuff up. So that is the internals of one of these Ross rifles. Let's pull everything out. Here should be all of the major components. And like I said, the reason I was in here is the end of my firing pin is busted. Now, this is kind of becoming unobtainium from what I'm finding. I can't find a lot of information. Believe it or not, when I first got it home, started messing with the action, the end of the firing piece was actually in the action. So someone had broke it not that long ago. So I have both pieces. So if you guys have any information, maybe I can weld it and then retemper or something like that. If you guys have any information or any extra parts, just let me know. So guys, here comes the part 2. This is very difficult to do behind a camera. You're gonna, for the reassembly, I'm gonna lay that back in there. And take the firing pin spring. And then this is where things get really squirrely. Let's see if I can hold this pressure back long enough to get a push on there. Now you see both of those parts lock into one another. Now let's see if I can get that crescent wrench back on there. Kind of give me more leverage. Now there's a place where that washer wants to fall in. I believe it's like right there. Let's see if I can force this back together. Let's get my hand to brake. Okay. Sorry for the lighting too, guys. Okay. Okay, guys. So we're back. Let me show this a little better because it's fighting me bad. You can see there's a little, it's kind of hard to see at this lighting, but there's a little cutout there. Then there's a coinciding little kind of knob there that'll fit right in there. And you got to make sure that that all lines up before you start putting too much pressure on it, or it doesn't want to go back together. So let's put that spring back on there. My hands are getting tired. Okay. Let's see if we can hold this spring back some. Put that washer on. Put this back on there. Hold that back. Let's see if I can get the crescent wrench back on so I can hold some of that pressure better. Let's find that cutout. Right there. Okay. So, now let's see. Okay, let's find that cutout. Okay, I believe it's right there. Now let's see if we can get this thing to thread. Just got to get a pop on it, and then it'll go. Okay, I think it's starting to thread. Let's just make sure. Okay. So, finally, that guy has it under control, has the spring under control. Let's see if I can straighten out this firing pin a little bit. Now let's go all the rest of the way and get it back threaded in. Sorry, I was looking over the camera. Might have ruined you guys' angle. Can you hear it clicking as it goes back in? Okay, now we're just about maxed out for what the crescent wrench can do. So let's take these needle nose pliers again. Get a hold of those knobs. And then just finish it up. Okay, now here's another difficult part of this reassembly, which it doesn't sound like it should be difficult, but it has been. When you go to reinsert the bolt head to the bolt body, it wants to almost every single time line up like this. So you pull it out and try to put it back in. same thing. When this is reassembled correctly, this bolt is going to be horizontal. The locking lugs is going to be horizontal with the handle. So you can look at this lug here, it needs to be horizontal. So what I found is when it sits here, you want to pull it out a little bit, and it's probably going to fight me a little bit, but we got to find where it wants to fall back in. See what I'm saying? It is way more annoying than it looks. Okay. There's a sweet spot where it likes to fall in. And it's gonna fight me. Okay, there it goes. I must have had the head. They look almost identical. Okay, so now we know. Hole on the bottom, horizontal with the lugs, and that's how that all locks in. Now we have to re-thread on the caulking piece all the way in. So let's just get it started. And you can see there's those flats again. What I'm gonna do, I think, is put a smaller screwdriver in to one of those flats. So I'm not being too horrible with the threads. I know kind of have been. And give it a start. And then let's see if I can pull this guy out and put pressure on it with one of these other screwdrivers. So now I have it pulled out. Let's put the big guy back in there. And let's see. Nope. It's not going to grab. So maybe we can use the extractor again. Let's pull the extractor out. Let's see if that'll fit in there. Okay. So I'm pulling the extractor out. Pulling the firing pin out. Let's get the extractor ready to lock into the location. And if it would just do me a favor and get on there, that'd be awesome. Okay. Okay, it's holding. So while it's holding, let's get that threaded back on. Okay, so now we're to this point. I do think I'll be able to put some pressure on it with this screwdriver and pull out the extractor and finish threading this the rest of the way. Like I said, this is a long-winded thread. Okay, let's see where we're at. We're almost there. Let's see if I can come at it from this side, put a little more pressure on it. Let me pull it out a little bit. Okay, now we got the pressure. There we go. So we should be just about there. Okay, we're bottoming out, so let's back them up a little bit. And let's see. Okay, so now you're gonna see there's this lug here. You kind of want to get it set up where it wants to fall in naturally, or it's gonna bind. So you kind of got to give it a couple spins. I know that it's not holding on perfectly, but it will start to grab. We're almost there. There it is. Okay. So that's locked back in there. Now let's pull out the bolt head. Now it can overextend, so we kind of got to get it set up. Take the extractor, put it back down the groove, lift it up, and we're locked. We are back together, guys. My gracious. Okay, now let's reinsert it back into the rifle. Gotta get it ready. Let's pull it out. Hopefully it'll stay. Let's get the rifle back in front of the camera. Okay, sling it back through. Okay, now we're back here. Like I said, it's gonna want to jump forward, so you kind of got to just be real easy with it. And there's a lug, that lug on the side. Once it's in there, you press that button. Let's just make sure it's all lined up. There we go. Press the button and you're home. So there's a Canadian Ross Mark II reassembled. So hopefully this helps out somebody so that they don't have to try to wrestle with it the way I did and not have any clue where to start. But this has been interesting, at least for me. But thanks for watching, and I've been Ivan, and this has been Forest Firearms.